Welcome to another episode of Rim Shots with Sean right here in the Rock Rage Radio Network, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. I'm outside, which is great because in Canada you don't sometimes often get to do that.
I know.
I have a brand new friend here, John Conlin. Where are you residing, John?
Hi, I'm in Los Angeles at the moment, but I am from Toronto, Canada, originally.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what I'm talking about. I'm in Halifax, right? So
yeah, I was
we're
just home last week, and I was like, "Oof, it's still it's not fully spring yet, I'd say, but getting there."
how long have you been in LA?
I've been here about 4.5 years.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself now. You have some new music coming out. I met you obviously through my good buddy Gina, who
Yes, we love
Gina's
Gina.
she's got some great clients. So just tell me a little bit about yourself, John.
All right. I'm a independent pop star in the making. I adore pop music, everything about it. I consider myself to be like a pretty big nerd and freak when it comes to it. I love consuming it. Only thing I love more than that is making it. And I love, making big, catchy, loud, electro poppy songs with good lyrics that have some kind of story narrative, because I think everyone's looking for something to relate to these days.
No question. So in terms of a comparable, because when you mention pop, I mean like any genre, it could be the swath could be
Of
quite
course.
broad. Who would I guess a comparable for my viewers? Who might that be?
For my sound, I find myself really inspired a lot from the 80s, but also I like to say like the late 2000s / early 2010s. From a music standpoint, I always like to think of myself as a big fan of songwriters. So like basically anything that Max Martin has ever worked on is my biggest inspiration. But from in terms of pop stars, I mean, my all-time favorite is Lady Gaga. I love how she's able to execute such a strong concept, but have the songs be catchy and also, mean something lyrically. And I'd say that that's kind of my North Star when it comes to comparison.
Yeah, I find her and the other one for me in that genre is Pink, because I just find they're fierce women.
Yeah,
The thing
love
that I love
Pink.
about Pink, she's a mega talent, but she could absolutely crush you with one punch if she had to. She's tough as nails,
Absolutely.
right? From
Yeah,
Philadelphia, and she's awesome. So no,
definitely.
those are great comparables. So in terms of what you've been putting out, you say you have some new music coming out.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, so I just recently dropped my newest song called High in 7-Eleven. And it was just kind of about when life feels a little too hectic or stressful and you get a little too existential, you need a little escape. And what's, more of an escapist place than the convenience store where all the lights are shining super bright and you can kind of try to convince yourself that life is better than what it is, turning that little corner store into your safe haven for the next 3.5 minutes.
Love the concept. So, obviously, you moved to Los Angeles to be closer to where the action is, because I mean, I've lived in Toronto. I was there for 7 years, and I'm going to make a statement that our American friends might not understand, but in Toronto, it is kind of a music hub, but you can only get so far. Like, there's almost like this border that between the United States and Canada that sets up, and you can make a good living in Canada, but it's really tough to get into the States
Totally.
and play in the States. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's why you went down there.
I think that was part of it. I had studied at school in Boston, and when you graduate from an American university, you kind of get a 1-year freebie visa. That's like the informal name for it. And I found myself going to Los Angeles for that year and kind of really loving the pop scene here. I completely agree with your sentiment, though. I remember when I first went to university, I'd list off some of my favorite artists at the time, and a bunch of the American friends I made were like, I don't think I've heard of those people before. And it's kind of surprising to me because, like such mega stars in Canada, but then they're not even played outside of the border. So I feel like, if I made it big in Canada, that'd be absolutely good enough for me too. But I do love the proximity of being in LA and being able to find different musicians and people with whom to work at all times.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is you can, walk 2 blocks over and you're in a totally different world in Los Angeles, right? Toronto's
Definitely.
similar. And if you're are you like from Toronto proper, like right in Toronto?
Yeah, like the East York area. So
Okay.
like
Well, I
I'd
used to
say,
live I lived at Greenwood and Danforth.
oh word.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I know it well, and
Yeah. When were
so
you there?
exactly what I said would be like that because I mean, I lived right at the Greenwood subway station, and you take a left, you're in the Greek section; you take a right, you're in the Italian section, and
Definitely.
all the culture and the wonderful things as that go. So,
Yeah.
what's your strategy been with your releases? Have you been doing kind of the popular sort of mythology now seems to be the waterfall
Yeah.
method?
I've done that, and I've been doing the kind of put out a single, try to your best to promote it, both boots on the ground and digitally. Um, and I think we do live in such a one song playlisting economy, but I've been honing I like to call it halfway between an EP and LPs record
Yeah.
over the past few months, and I think I'm just getting to the finishing touches of it, and I'm going to obviously put out a few standalone singles before then, but before you drop the whole project. But I do really want one cohesive collective body of work on my streaming pages. I kind of sometimes think of it like a resume, and I'm like, well, if someone were to listen to a whole project, what would they expect? And I'm kind of trying to take the numbers game out of it and just be like, I want to create, I want to have a full body of work. And even if, you know, I'm not signed or have a massive label backing, I do want my own cohesive project out there. That's something that I'm definitely craving and excited to put out hopefully later this year.
I think that's a smart way to look at it because I mean, if you go into it with the idea I want to make money or I want to be famous, I think you're going to drive yourself bananas because the
Definitely.
business is just not set up that way as it used to be. I mean, it can happen. There's no question, and I
Yeah.
would discourage somebody from making music, but I think you just have to go in uh, trying to please yourself and hoping somebody else kind of catches on to it.
Yeah. I feel like I, much like I think a lot of independent artists, have sometimes fallen mentally victim to the what's catchy right now, what's the trend right now, what's the most effective way to make a TikTok that'll blow up. And I think it's good. I've seen it happen for people in my circle that they've blown up a song or something, but I don't think it's the long-term strategy anymore. I think it's important to just really be authentic to yourself and not go chasing what everyone else is doing.
Well, and I think that you have to think in these terms, right? So if somebody does a TikTok video, and even if it's a song and it blows up, great. But if somebody else does a TikTok video and it's them, I don't know, feeding raccoons on a back deck, and they get just as much penetration, then it's kind of like, okay, well, your art is competing with something totally
Yeah.
ridiculous, and I don't think it's sustainable. You're constantly having to work it.
Yeah, I think it's good to always remember it needs to be part of the long-term strategy.
Right.
But the reason I definitely am craving putting out a project is because we're so deep into the streaming era now. I think it's been like definitely basically the mainstream way of music consumption for almost a decade now. The thing that I like about it, at least, there are a lot of ups and downs and things that are good and things that are bad, but I do like the notion of if something catches and you have a bunch of other songs out there that have quality,
Yep.
then kind of like a rising tide lifts all boat kind of thing. So to me, it's like when I'm going and eventually going to put out the project, I'm not coming at it from a place of, oh my gosh, like what if no one listens to this? It's like I gotta keep believing that it's gonna happen, and I know it's good. I have faith in it. It's gonna find the right people, and when it does, hopefully everything works out that way. And yeah.
So how have you been recording, like approaching your project in terms of recording? Are you using, the traditional methods? Or are you doing a little bit on your own? You doing a little bit of a kind of a mix and match? How's that coming together for you?
I think the songs that I put out up until about this time last year were very much like untraditional, doing Zoom sessions because a lot of stuff was made during the throes of the early pandemics. But
Yep.
I found new collaborators both in LA, in Toronto, and Nashville, frankly, that I've loved working with. And so I usually come in with like a pretty full-fledged song, or at least like 70% of it, and then I work with the producer to make the track sound really good and make it sound nice and glossy. but I've definitely also been coming in a little with less and less, more of just a concept and building pop track from the ground up. I do like both ways. I love a solo write moment, and I love collaborating with people once I'm super comfortable with them.
Well, and here's the beautiful thing: no matter what some, and I use air quotes, experts try to tell you, there's no right or wrong way to do
Exactly.
it, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like that's something I always have to tell myself. It's like art is subjective, even when it comes to like listening to a mix. It's like there is no right or wrong way. I mean, the drums could be too loud, but like, that doesn't mean it's bad per se. It's just
Well,
different.
as a drummer, I don't have a problem with that. I'd be
Exactly.
happy with the drums being too loud. But isn't it funny though that it's always the people, I'll say the non-doers that they discovered this wonderful thing called Google where they can go on and get you all the problems of the world solved. But they've never actually done it before, so it's concepts and theory. It's not actual, roll up the
Definitely.
sleeves and do it, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the most rewarding thing about being an artist. And I imagine be the same across any form of art, whether it's visual, uh, acting, performance, making music, is taking the concept and the idea and executing it. It's definitely one of the best feelings in the world. It's kind of the feeling that even when I'm feeling overwhelmed or like existential, that feeling always keeps me going forward. It's like I can transform something from nothing or just a little moment in my head to a tangible thing. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. So in terms of song outlay and whatnot, how many songs do you currently have that people can go and find and listen to and check out?
I currently have about 12 songs out, and a few of them are going to be on this upcoming project. But I think it's important as an artist to never discredit your previous works. I love all of my songs. They're all my children. They're all my babies. And, just because I made something 2 or 3 years ago and it doesn't make it to the EP or the record doesn't mean I don't love it. It just doesn't fit the vibe anymore.
And what part of LA are you in?
I'm currently in West Hollywood.
Okay, nice. So
Yeah.
I mean, you're right in the thick of things, right? You're around the corner from places like the Rainbow and the Whiskey a Go Go and all that.
Yeah. I played the Viper Room a few months ago, and it was kind of a surreal experience because I was like, oh, I could walk here and just do it. And that's kind
So
of like
it's
a cool
interesting you mentioned
moment.
that. Where I'm standing right now, my guitar player lives 30 seconds up the road,
Mhm.
and he played the Viper Room a few years back, and then went into the Whiskey. And he and I, growing up, these are iconic rooms for us. And his
Yeah,
first takeaway was, I thought it would be bigger,
I
but
know.
I
They're
played the
tiny
old
venues.
Gasworks in Toronto, right? And I
Yeah.
always thought the old Gasworks would be bigger. So, when you went into those rooms and played it, was it kind of like, yep, check it off the bucket list, check it off the box?
It was, but at the same time, it was like a moment of gratitude and like, even though I'm not playing a massive arena or something, it's a small room. I'm like, this is pretty freaking cool. If I think
Yep.
about like how, most artists have had to start at a small room, specifically even that one, like say the most artists that debuted, up until like 2010 have played the Viper Room. And I think that's pretty cool that I've also been there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, last question, my friend. Where do I send my viewers and my listeners to find out more about John?
All right. Well, you can find me on your favorite streaming service at just John Conlin. If you just search it on Spotify, Apple Music, that's JohnConlin. And you can find me on all social media sites at John Conlin Music. That's JohnConlin music. And yeah, come follow me. Come keep up with the journey.
Mr. Conlon, pleasure to meet you, sir.
Pleasure to meet you. I'm honored to be on your podcast, Sean. Thank you.
We're back after this.